Hi guys, and welcome to another video. My name's Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the 5 things that I believe that you should invest in that will guarantee you'll become wealthy. So I'm not going to waste any of your time with a long intro. Please like, subscribe, do all that stuff, but let's go and get into number 1 straight away. So guys, my first thing that I think that everybody should invest in is yourself. Now, I know this sounds cliche, and I'm not recommending that if you've got no money, you go out and invest in a £12,000 course or anything like that. But books, YouTube, there's so many free or almost free resources that you can immerse yourself in knowledge. And I think that you really need to get to grips with the basics of investing. And that's compound interest, that's time value of money, internal rate of return, all these sort of things I'm saying to you, you need to be understanding what those things are, so that when it comes to understanding the concepts involved in certain asset classes, such as property, such as index funds, that you pick it up really quickly and understand how what you do today will affect your future. By being able to connect those dots, you will be incentivized to continue with those investments. So for me, understanding and investing in yourself is the first thing that everybody should do. So guys, the second thing that I think you should invest in is a plan. Now, I know this might not take money, but it might take time. But I think it's so important to sit down and go, where do I want to be by what stage in life? And the reason that that's going to really be important for you is if you want to be rich when you're 65, a pension might be a really good vehicle to get you there. If you want to be rich when you're 45, it's basically useless. In fact, it's worse than useless. It's going to take income that you could invest for your today, and it's going to mean you can't touch it until you're 55. So it's really, really important that you're very honest with yourself about when you want to achieve certain milestones. And I find using things like a compound interest calculator extremely useful for you to get a good idea of, if I invest this, I will have that by this time in my life. And that, I think, will be the second thing that I would say everybody should invest in. It's only going to take time, but it's important. So guys, this is number 3, and this is my first, I guess, investment. The first 2 are laying the groundworks, understand what options are there for you in terms of getting the knowledge, understand a plan that's going to work for you, and this one is really much starting executing an investment that's right for you. My first one is index funds, and the reason that we use index funds is that they generally, over time, almost always outperform mutual funds. I think in 75% of instances, over a 10-year period, an index fund is superior, and because of that, that means that we're going to be able to maximize our returns whilst minimizing the fees we pay. Now, if you want to learn more about that, there's lots of books on the subject of index funds, but what I think is really important is you understand what they are and how they'll help you. So an index fund is basically a fund made up of a basket of companies that operate on that index. Now, for example, the S&P 500 is the 500 largest companies in America, and that would have things like Google, Facebook, and Tesla. You would own a proportion of all of those. Now, how are you going to invest in those index funds? Now, that very much depends on your plan. So if you're looking to do it when you're retired, then within a pension wrapper is going to be extremely useful for you. You're going to get lots of tax benefits. If you want to become rich before then and you want to maybe have a wealthy 40s, then maybe you want to be looking at ISAs. Again, lots of tax benefits to ISAs. If you want to invest in property later on, you want to really grow your wealth, and you're not currently a homeowner, then a LISA is going to be amazing. A LISA means the government put 20% up to a maximum of £1,000 a year, and that means it's going to really supercharge your investment. So it's not one size fits all, but it's one plan for you, and then operate these index funds within that. For me, I use it within my ISA. I also have a fund and share account, which, as you know, we give away the subscriber dividends away on this account. So if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so, and give this video a like. It massively helps me out with the algorithm. But index funds, they are key for growing your wealth over time. So guys, the 4th thing that I'm going to talk about is property, and in particular house hacking. And I'm going to tell you how I bought my first house and how that became such a great investment for me. Now, what I did was I purchased a 3-bedroom house in Erith, which was a little bit further out of London than I would have liked, but at the same time it meant I had 2 spare bedrooms. And what we did was we rented out both those spare bedrooms to lodgers, and we managed to earn a huge amount of income from our property. It meant that we were living there effectively free. And for a couple that were previously spending £1,000 a month on rent, it was an exceptional saving. And it meant that we could really supercharge our saving and investing so that we could purchase our second investment house pretty quickly. So I would recommend to anybody who's looking to get on the housing ladder for the first time, if your situation allows, consider house hacking. Consider renting out your spare rooms. Consider getting that tax-free income in. So for us, house hacking was key to growing our wealth in the long run. It meant that we could afford our second property without having to sell the first. And for us, it was a really useful tool. So I would recommend that to anybody who's in a position where they could rent out the spare rooms. And I know this doesn't work for everybody. If you've got kids or you're married and you want a bit of privacy, I understand it might not work for you. But if you're in the position where you can, house hacking is amazing for supercharging your wealth. So guys, my fifth thing is going to be investment properties. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I love investing in property. As a family, we've got 13 worth just over £3 million, and that generates us about £20,000 a month in income. Now, for me, that part of our portfolio is key. I love the fact that it's so scalable, it's so proven over time, and it's a leverageable asset. So whilst the index funds provide us with a really strong bedrock of wealth, my belief is that the investment properties have absolutely supercharged our cash flow. Now, we use strategies like HMOs, we use single lets, we've got some service accommodation, and I would recommend you learn about all of these things over time. But honestly, the fact that property is leverageable is the key thing that makes it a superior asset to most other classes. So that's been my opinion. Those are my 5 things. I hope you found this video interesting. If you haven't already given it a like, please do so. I've been Mark Parham, and I will see you again next week.